hearings for August the 5th, 2025. We have one item on the menu, or the agenda today. But will you please first join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the first item on the agenda is Appeal 3232. The applicant, Friedman Realty Group, Inc., property located at 435 East Lancaster Avenue and zoned R6 residential. Applicant seeks a variance from Section 280-36.2 to permit a yoga studio within the R6 zoning district, and a variance from Section 280-103 with respect to required off-street parking. The proposed use would be located on the ground floor of the Aberwick Apartments in an office space previously used and permitted as a physician's office. Go ahead.
Thank you. It's good to see everyone. David Falcone here on behalf of the applicant. We'll correct one item in the application, and we'll explain that during the testimony, but the use will be a Pilates studio, which is of the same ilk as far as use standards, but it will not be yoga, it will be Pilates. I am here, as Mr. Lord noted, on behalf of the Friedman Realty Group. They are the owners of the Aberwick Apartments, and we are seeking two items of relief tonight, the first being a use variance and the second being a parking variance. The property is zoned R6, which by the code does not permit in and of itself this proposed use. The Friedman Realty Group acquired the property in 2020, which is noted in the deed, which we have pre-marked as Exhibit A2 in your package. When the Friedman Realty Group acquired the property, the subject space located within the Aberwick Apartments was being used as a medical office. And the parking located on the property at that point, which was 52 spaces, that's, I'm sorry, that is not, 52 spaces, with one of them, having a hard time, my vision is a little off, so give me 1 second here. So 78 total parking spaces, 2 of which are ADA. There are 51 residential apartments in the Aberwick Apartments and 1 commercial space. And those conditions existed when the applicant purchased the property in 2020. Shortly after the acquisition, the commercial tenant vacated the commercial space. That was in early 2021. Immediately, the applicant engaged the services of a professional real estate leasing group, the Delphi Property Group, to commence leasing inquiries for the empty space. It was not until just recently that a tenant was procured for the space, and that's the tenant for which we're seeking the relief tonight, and that is, again, for a Pilates studio. I do have a representative here tonight from the tenant to confirm if there's any questions for her as to what her use is or the proposed scope of that use is, but I'll get some of that information from Mr. Friedman, who obviously prepared the LOI and is familiar with the use itself. The application seeks no expansion of the existing footprint of the building, nor any reduction in existing parking. All existing conditions would remain as they are today. It should also be noted that the Friedman Realty Group owns the adjacent, or not adjacent, but neighboring Wessex House apartment, which is located across Lancaster Avenue. Mr. Friedman will offer testimony that, should it be necessary, and what they have done in the past, where overflow parking is necessary, they allow users to use the Wessex House. So if there's no question specifically for me, I will call what I intend to be my only witness, unless the board would like to hear from the tenant herself. I will note that we've pre-marked 6 exhibits. A1 is a zoning hearing board application, which you all have in front of you. A2 is the deed. A3 is an aerial photograph of the subject property. A4 are some photographs of the existing conditions of the property. A5 is a floor plan and certificate of occupancy that we had for the prior use to confirm that it was there and permitted by the township. And then A6 is a survey plan for when Mr. Friedman's group acquired the property. So if there are any questions for me?
So when it was initially permitted with the physician, it
Yes.
was then an R5 district, right?
That's correct.
And there wasn't any zoning relief that was necessary for the physician to move in there because that use was permitted in R5?
I'm not sure when the physician's office actually went in to the Aberwick Apartments. I know they've been around since the 70s, I believe, and I'm not sure whether that use was permitted or pre-existed the existing zoning ordinance. I know that when the current owner acquired it, Mr. Lord, it was a pre-existing non-conforming condition.
Sometime in 2008, Board, the ordinance was changed for the R5 district that prior to, I believe it was 2008, a doctor's or professional office was permitted in the R5 district. Subsequently, an amendment was passed where that was no longer allowed. And then in that time frame, similar time frame, this parcel, a group of parcels in this area was rezoned from R5 to R6, and this use wasn't permitted in the R6 district.
And when did the doctor that was in there move out?
The doctor moved out in early 2021.
And it's been unoccupied since that time?
Unoccupied. But again, and I'll actually hand this in, and we'll mark it A7. This is going to be a copy of the listing agreement that they executed in March of 2021 to show their immediate attention to try and release the space.
This is going to be 7?
A7, yeah.
There's a, do you have an extra? Thanks.
And we offer A7, Mr. Lord, just should have pleased the board to show that there was no intent by the current owner to abandon the use that was there previously. There was simply no activity on the property.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Friedman, I'm going to have you sworn.
And state your full name, please, and spell it.
David Friedman, D-A-V-I-D, F-R-I-E-D-M-A-N.
David, what is your role with the Friedman Realty Group?
I'm president of the company.
And that group is the owner and operator of the Aberwick Apartments, is that correct?
Yes, technically we have an LLC affiliate that owns it, but yes, we are effectively the owner of the property.
And can you describe for the board this evening the existing use of the Aberwick Apartments?
So primarily apartments. We have 51 apartment units there, and there is a storefront commercial space as well as in addition to that count.
And when did your group acquire Aberwick?
December 2020.
And that's reflected in Exhibit A2, which I've marked in the package, is that correct?
Yes.
And at any time during your ownership, have you increased the density on site?
No.
And when you acquired the property, was the subject space vacant or occupied?
Occupied.
And to whom was it leased?
A doctor, don't know his first name, Dr. Zhang.
Okay. And to your knowledge, at that time, the use for the doctor was a permitted, meaning the township had issued a use permit for that use.
Yes, the former ownership provided us with a Radnor Township certificate of occupancy with his name listed on there for the space.
And when did the doctor vacate?
Sometime in earlier mid-2021.
And since that time that the doctor vacated, you attempted to release the space, is that correct?
Yes, as soon as he gave his notice, we engaged a commercial broker for leasing.
And we've just marked as Exhibit A7 that contract, is that correct?
That is correct.
And until this point, have you had success?
We have not.
But you do have a tenant that is currently interested in the space.
Yes, we do.
And are you able to share the name of that tenant?
Rise Pilates.
And what is the intended use for the space?
It would be a Pilates studio.
And based on your letter of intent and discussions with the client, or I'm sorry, the tenant, how many classes will be offered on a per day basis?
The estimate would be about 5 classes per day.
And how many people per class?
They would have 5 Pilates reformers, and therefore it's a 1 person per reformer ratio, so there would be 5 students, if you will, per class session.
Okay. And there will be some private lessons as well.
Correct. They would offer one-on-one private lessons.
Will you permit more than 1 class at a time in the space?
No, they would only be able to do 1 class at a time.
And will there be classes, what we'll say, early in the morning or later in the evening?
They would conduct their hours under normal, general business hours.
And that would be a condition of your lease.
Correct.
Do you know the approximate size of the space?
Approximately 1,260 square feet.
And we've marked some photos of the space as exhibit, let's make sure, A4. Can you flip to A4 in the package, please? And is the first photo there shown in the package the exterior of the building?
Yes, it is.
Zoom in maybe a little bit. And the remaining photos in the package, are they of the interior of the space?
That is correct.
And is the space currently inhabitable as a residence?
As an apartment residence or
An
to
apartment residence, sorry.
No, it is not.
Is it set up for commercial use?
It is set up for commercial use, yes.
And it was that way when you acquired the property?
Correct.
Did you refit the space in any way since the doctor vacated?
No, it's in the as-is condition from the move-out.
Based on your experience in ownership of the building, should the board see fit to grant a variance this evening with respect to use, will it alter in any way the essential character of the neighborhood or impair the appropriate use or development of adjacent property?
I don't think it will. I mean, it's got a storefront already, so it's just putting to use the way it was intended as developed.
And will you, as part of this use, make any exterior renovations to the building?
Building will stay as is.
So in that respect, the variance with respect to use is the minimum necessary, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Will this proposed variance, in your opinion, create any additional traffic beyond what was permitted for the doctor's office?
I do not believe so, no.
Will there be any new access points from the property that you're intending to use as a part of the Pilates studio?
There will not. There are only 2 existing access points, and they'll stay the same.
We also are seeking a variance for parking. You're aware of that.
Yes.
Do you know how many spaces are currently on the property?
78.
And how many spaces were on the property when you acquired it?
Former owners didn't have it paved or line striped, but it was the same square footage and area, so I would assume the same.
You haven't removed any parking area as part of your ownership?
No, all the asphalt is the same exact as it was.
Let's turn to Exhibit A3. Is that an aerial image of the property as you know it today?
Yes, it is, and just for record, people not familiar with looking at this photo, I don't know that this is necessarily the correct exposure, but the northern top end of the photo, which runs adjacent to the SEPTA rail, there are, I want to say, 18 parking spaces in there that are not visible because they're covered by a roof structure. Those are covered parking spaces.
Okay. And the parking as it's shown here is striped as part of your ownership, correct?
Yes, this reflects our renovation.
And does the parking as it exists today comply with the township code?
I do not believe it does.
And have you had discussions with township staff in that respect? Existing parking?
I don't recall if that's come up.
Have you reviewed the township code with respect to parking requirements prior to tonight's application?
Generally familiar, but have not studied it.
Just to lay out existing parking, there are 51 units, correct?
Yes.
And there's a medical office space, that's correct?
Yes.
And based on your review of the code, you saw that it was, for a medical office, 150 square feet, one space per exam room on top of that. Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
And there were 3 exam rooms in the doctor's office, is that correct?
Correct.
And if you flip to Exhibit A5, and this is the exhibit that shows the CO as well as the floor plan for the prior use, we see 3 exam rooms, is that correct?
Yes.
And you've testified that there's approximately 1,250 or 1,260 square feet to the unit, is that correct?
Yes.
Based on those calculations, you were factoring as part of your ownership group that there'd be essentially 11 parking spaces that would be needed for a required doctor's office, is that correct?
Yes.
And you did the same analysis with respect to the proposed tenant, is that correct?
Yes.
And based on your reading of the code, you believe that there would be 8 spaces for this use, is that correct?
Yes.
And that's assuming that the township would deem this use to be either indoor recreation, a gym, something of that caliber.
Correct.
And the 8 spaces that the proposed use would require would be obviously less than the 11 that the doctor needed.
Yes.
But without question, you are still not able to meet what would be the minimum required by the code.
Correct. We only have 78 spaces.
Have you been on site to observe parking during the proposed business hours for the use?
I have.
And have you observed parking deficiencies during those hours?
I have not, and as I drove over here at 6:30 p.m., there was sufficient ample parking available at the front of the property.
And given your knowledge of the property, do you believe that the approval of the proposed use and the variance with respect to parking would have a detrimental impact on the current residents of the property during those business hours that will be permitted in the lease?
No, they're at work, so I do not believe it'll have any issue.
And you heard me mention in the beginning of the hearing, you also own the Wessex House, is that correct?
That is correct.
And is it your intention and has it been your past practice when there is overflow need for parking for one reason or another that you permit parking at the Wessex House?
Absolutely.
And there's additional and excess parking there, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you know offhand how many parking spaces are at Wessex?
I forget the exact count, somewhere in the 160, 170 range.
Okay. And would you be willing, if this board made it a condition, to enter into a parking license that would permit this user to utilize excess parking at Wessex House as part of their use?
Absolutely. We own both buildings. They're across the street.
And is it your intention, should the board permit this use and grant this variance, to designate specific parking on site for this use?
Yes.
Since your ownership of the property, have you ever been approached by neighbors with respect to utilizing parking at Aberwick?
I believe when 427 Wayne was being constructed, there was a period of time when the asphalt was going down that they needed some parking spaces.
And was it your understanding, strike that, did they request from you or your property manager?
They requested from my property manager, not me.
And that request was to permit parking at Aberwick for vehicles during that limited construction period, is that correct?
To the best of my knowledge, I believe so.
And do you know what the response to that request was?
I believe we offered them parking, and I believe that was at Wessex House because there is plenty of spaces that were available there, and we would give them whatever they needed.
And are you aware whether they took you up on that offer or not?
I do not know.
Since that time, have there been any other requests for parking on site from neighboring property owners?
Not to my knowledge.
And again, to be clear, since you acquired ownership at the property, you have done nothing to reduce the parking that was there?
We have not.
I have no additional questions for Mr. Friedman.
Any questions by the board?
Yeah, I have two. How many units in the building are occupied by one person?
Meaning if somebody's leasing an apartment, how many apartments are just a single occupant?
Yeah.
I don't know offhand.
Do you have a rough percentage?
I would be guessing
What's your guess?
a third.
Okay. And then I guess the second question is just some clarification.
Yeah.
You were saying that the doctor was allotted roughly 8 seats.
The doctor, I think the testimony was only pursuant to code, what would be required of a doctor's office
Would be the
would
8
be
spots.
11.
11 spots.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's based on square footage, the way the code outlines it, square footage plus exam rooms.
Okay. And then I guess one more. Is there any surcharge or anything for parking at the apartments for your tenants?
No, not for the surface parking, except for if there's a carport, we do have a small fee just because it would be a free-for-all for everybody, especially in the winter, to get that covered parking.
Okay. Thank you.
How many bedrooms are there rather than units?
It's about a third one-bedrooms, a third, or I would say two-thirds, two-bedrooms, and there's, I want to say 2 or 3 total three-bedroom apartments.
And I guess you have no knowledge when the doctor went in there, it was a permitted use, so is the assumption that parking was adequate at that time, or was it deficient?
At the time of our purchase,
No, yeah.
at
When
the
it-
time of his
Yeah. when
CO,
you read it, yeah.
that was in the early aughts. I couldn't tell you exactly what was the parking situation, 20 years ago.
And I have not heard either, whether it was an issue at that time. I don't know whether the township had received or issued any notices regarding parking to that property. Kevin, are you aware?
The information in the file was very minimal in terms of how this use came about. It wasn't until today I started to actually dig into the timeline and was able to trace it back to what I mentioned earlier, 2007. It looks like 2008 is when the code changed to eliminate the professional office in the R5 district. Somewhere between 2006 and 2008 is when this site was rezoned.
Thank you. That's all.
And John, I should say, kind of in my analysis of the site as well, this seems to be maybe like an early adopter of like a TOD type use. very close, walkable to public transportation. So perhaps when it was permitted in '07 or '08, that people were using it kind of in that regard. But that's just speculation based on location and doing the drive around the site.
This change was back when we were playing with the transit-oriented development.
Yeah,
So that's why it came. And if you park at Wessex, you have to cross Lancaster Avenue.
that's right.
There is a light at Chamonix,
That's right.
but nevertheless, it's hard to believe that the people are going to do that.
Well, for the record, they are both on the same side of Lancaster, so the only crossing is across Chamonix. They are next door to each other on the same side of the same side of the street.
Chamonix is a fairly busy street, though.
So I do have a question. So with the requested use variance, are there any other uses that, like that the property can, like permitted uses this suite can be utilized for? Or is it just effectively such a hardship that it can't be used for any other permitted use? I'm just trying to, just understanding
Yep.
the legal question here.
So the legal question, so the hardship itself is the way just the building was built in the 70s to include this type of one use, one space, I mean, has been fit for commercial use. So in order to bring that within conformity in the code, it would have to be retrofit to a residential unit, which would be a significant undertaking for a building, for a unit like this. It would require both interior as well as exterior, HVAC, mechanical, and potentially structural changes to make it fit for residential use.
What about any of the accessory uses? Would that be, I'm just thinking,
So-
just from the question of the hardship.
Yeah, yeah.
Are there any other permitted uses that this can be used for
So,
outside of a commercial use?
yep, so we have listed this for lease, basically open to any use that would want or be able to be here. So we've been open to pretty much anything that could come in. If it would fall under accessory, we would be open to that. And I think there's some service shops that can be listed in the accessory components. But this is really the first time, and I went over this with Mr. Friedman, they had a hit for a use on this site in, almost 5 years, 4.5 years. So it's just been sitting vacant. But again, that's why I thought Exhibit A7 was pretty important to show. I know that sometimes folks will come in and say, oh, we've been trying to lease it, or we've been trying to do something, and really, there's been no activity. But they did engage with a third party almost immediately to try and relet the space, because it was how they acquired it. You know, it went to their ultimate generation of income from the site. So I think it's important to show that type of activity from an applicant when they're saying they can't lease a space. I think it's important for the applicant to put on the record that there's been formal engagement with a brokerage service. But they've been open to almost any use that could come down the pike. They would have heard it.
Normal business hours were mentioned. What would they be? What would the hours of operation be?
I would defer to the operator, but generally speaking, somewhere in the vicinity of 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
What has to be, what, if anything, has to be done to the doctor's office to make it suitable for use as a Pilates studio?
So that will depend on a couple things, but basically, it could be opened up as it is now, like removing the exam rooms and putting down new flooring, something like a plank floor, putting in appropriate lighting for the space, making sure that the HVAC is appropriate as well, and that there's a compliant bathroom in the space. If we were to get through this process, we would work with the tenant and with an architect to make sure that the space fits their business needs and also fits with whatever township requirements there are for their fit out.
John, just to turn to A5 as well, if the board wanted to see that as the existing floor plan of the office space.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
Would the landlord be covering the tenant fit up, like the tenant allowance?
We would be covering the majority of it, yes.
Okay, so the property would just have to, the suite will have to be completely gutted then, is that correct? Completely remodeled?
Mostly, but it would be a pretty reasonable and I would say cost-effective undertaking.
Okay, thank you.
I think
I
it may be a
just wanna
good
clarify
follow-up
s-
question. I'm sorry.
Something else that there's, did you say there's going to be 5 classes a day?
That is the estimate, yes.
When you say an estimate, what's the estimate based on?
The tenant owner of the studio.
And again, we're happy to call her, Mr. Lord, if you want to get that information from her as well.
I think that, I mean, what involvement will you have as the owner of the premises in the day-to-day operations of hiring employees, supervising employees, and checking how many people are showing up and how often for the Pilates classes? What will your role be in that? If it's going to be no role at all, then I think we should hear from the people who are going to be operating it.
That is correct. She would run her business. We would just make sure that the lease that we sign, she's in compliance with the lease terms.
Okay.
The intent, Mr. Lord, would be obviously if this board saw fit to grant this request and attach conditions as to use or hours or scope, that would be in the contract with the tenant, so that it would be a contractual obligation as well as an obligation from the township. And that would in turn give the landlord the ability to enforce the terms of the lease on a contractual basis.
Well, we don't know what the terms of the lease are going to be at this point in time. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. So why don't we, does the board have any more questions for the witness, the present witness? Okay. If you don't have any more questions for your witness, do you want to put the potential tenant on? Please?
Yes.
Or tenants?
You can have a seat and just raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. State your full name, use the microphone there and speak into it, and spell your name.
Jill McKenna, JILLMCKENNA.
Jill, can you please state for the board your involvement in this application, the name of the company that you're with?
Sure. I'm a co-owner of Rise Pilates.
Of who?
Rise, R-I-S-E, Pilates.
And is Rise Pilates the potential tenant for the subject space, which is the part of the application tonight?
Yes, it is.
And you have entered into discussions with Mr. Friedman regarding and laid out terms for a potential lease should we obtain approval with respect to the space tonight. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you heard the testimony tonight from Mr. Friedman. Is that correct?
Correct.
I'm going to ask you some similar questions for the board so that they can hear from the actual user rather than the owner. Is that all right?
Yes.
Is the intended use of the space as a Pilates studio?
Yes.
And how many classes per day do you intend to have at the space?
An average of 5. Like we, did a whole prospectus business plan, financial model, and we're thinking 5 classes and then also additional private lessons, one-on-one when we're not having classes.
And approximately how many folks will be permitted to take these classes?
So there'll be 5 Pilates reformers, which is a piece of equipment that you do Pilates on. And so it'll be 5 people in the class and then 1 instructor for the class.
Will there be any other employees at the space other than the instructor?
We're not planning on having any other employees. There are 2 owners, so both of us may be there at some point, but no one other than that.
And it is not your intention, or I should say, is it your intention for the owners to be there on a regular basis during business hours so that they would be deemed kind of regular users of the space for parking purposes?
Yes,
So when we talk about 5 users, 1 instructor, and 2 owners, that's what you expect during the day, all day?
no, we would be teaching the classes.
Oh, the owners are the teachers.
Yes.
That's helpful. Do you run other businesses other than the intended location?
Yes,
And so the estimates you're giving with respect to the use here are based not only on the model that you've drawn for this space, but on your experience at other locations.
correct.
Is it your experience, Jill, that your classes are full most of the time?
At my current location, is that what you're saying?
Just in general, running this business, is it your experience that they're full? You have 5 folks in a class at a time.
That's our hope.
Is it the current experience you have at your other locations? I think
I think that it will be full,
more than not.
More than not.
Okay. I have no additional questions for Ms. McKenna.
Yeah, just a quick one. Can we just get some clarity on the hours? I know sometimes Pilates and things like that can start really early or have different hours to accommodate people's schedule.
Yeah, so we're thinking between 8 and 6.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really familiar with Pilates. Is there music that's played at the time when you're having your classes?
No.
And the equipment that you use, I think you call it a performer?
Yes.
How many students can that, well, let me ask the question a different way. If you have a class of 5 students, you're going to do 5 a day, how long do you estimate each session would last with the 5 students?
50 minutes.
50 or 15?
50.
And do you estimate that 5 students is approximately the maximum that you can effectively teach and train in a 50-minute time frame on the devices that you use?
Yes.
Now, just confining ourselves to the classes, do I understand correctly that if you have a class, the students in the class, and will only be utilizing the facility and be on the premises as part of being in that class?
Correct.
You also mentioned private classes. Now, when would the private classes take place?
When we're not having a group class,
And when would that be?
so still between the hours of 8 and 6, but if we have, say, a class at 8 a.m. and a class at 10 a.m., then at 9 a.m., we would leave that available to have a one-on-one lesson. So any hours that we wouldn't have classes on our schedule would be available for one-on-one sessions.
Would any of the students, private or group classes, would they be permitted to use the equipment when you're not there? Or if you are there, there's open equipment that can be used? In other words, use it outside of a classroom environment or a training environment?
No.
Maybe I didn't ask the question completely. How many of these devices will be in the,
5.
there's 5 of them?
Mm-hmm.
So if several are not being used, or one is not being used, can a student come in and use it on their own?
No,
That's not something you would permit.
would not permit.
Do I understand you're presently operating a studio like this one?
I presently operate a bar and yoga studio, not a Pilates reformer studio, but it's a fitness studio.
Okay, that's all the questions. Any questions? No?
I have no other witnesses.
No other witnesses, okay. Do you want to move your, you want to move your, the lady back there keeps raising her hand. Is she with you?
She is not, but before we turn it over to the public, we would like to ask that the board accept our exhibits into the record, please.
Without objection.
And I'll leave, Mr. Lord, a copy of the exhibits up here for any neighbors that want to reference them during their talking.
Okay, very good. All right, now it's time for public comment. Is there any public comment? So come on up, one at a time, please. State your, you'll be sworn in, state your name
You can have a seat.
so that our court reporter can,
Mike,
Good evening.
raise your right hand.
Okay.
You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
State your full name and spell it for me.
Cynthia Lee Johnson, CynthIaLeeJohnson. Good evening. I'm Cynthia Johnson. I live at 427 Lancaster, which is the condominiums to the left of Aldborough. And I was a first resident there, so I've been there for 3 years, but I'm a 40-year resident of Radnor Township. My kids have all gone to school here. There are two buildings, Building 1 and Building 2, or A and B. Building A, the majority of residents have written and copied, Kevin is what I understand,
keep your
of
voice
their-
up a little bit, please.
of their opposition to the yoga or now Pilates studio. And there were really two reasons why, and two important reasons. One was the safety of cars going in and out of the driveways. We, at 427, have a very difficult time going either left or right because of all the cars coming out. And for the units next door, which we overlook that particular unit, their cars cannot see our driveway, so they come out and almost hit our cars. So it's quite dangerous. So the safety is important to us, and also the parking. Now, I know that you had asked a question about when we needed 6 parking spaces for 2 nights only, and our builder, MP3, had requested from the neighbors, Aberwick, for 6 parking spaces for 2 nights. And we were refused and told that they did not have 6 spaces to spare. So what they did, in order to do our driveway, is we moved all the cars to near the train station and hired a private security service to guard the cars for 2 days and 2 nights. So that in itself was that was the reality of the situation. And secondly, the doctor who was in that space, Dr. Chang, was an acupuncture doctor. He needed no medical technicians, and he had no assistant. It was always one-to-one. One patient went in, saw him, he worked on them, the patient left, another patient came. I was one of his patients, so I do know it was bare threads. So those are really the two reasons. One is the danger or safety, and really what that unit was used for. So for that reasons, we have an opposition to putting a yoga Pilates studio there because of all the cars that will come in and out. And we just want to keep the neighborhood safe. We have many cars, police cars, ambulances driving by every day. So it's a concern for all of us. And I don't know, did I say everything, do you think? Yeah, I think so. And I'm happy to answer any of your questions.
Are there any stop signs from the parking lots into the roads?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
And the other problem is that the trees have matured and the fences are high. So unless you put your car right to the edge of the curb, you can't see left or right coming out.
Are you able to describe the typical parking situation as, like, at the property itself?
At our property?
Yes, or just, yes.
Okay, at our property, we have, I think we have approximately 20 residents. Most of them have 2 cars, so we use our indoor parking space, and we often use all the outdoor parking spaces for contractors or housekeepers and stuff that come in, or guests, of course. But we have enough for us. We have seen other entities come and park there and have had to request that they move their cars. And we do not have a doorman or anything like that, so we don't, it just happenstance if someone sees someone leave their car, park their car, leave it, and then walk away to another building.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So did I understand that you're in a condominium that is just to the west?
West, right next to
Used to be a
Aberwick.
dentist's office or something there, and it used to be a home there, and they knocked it down, and
Yes, it was a doctor's office, and they put 2 buildings
then your
there.
driveway from your condo exits directly on the Lancaster Avenue.
Correct, as Aberwick's. So we're really side by side, except there are trees in between and a tall fence. And I should say, we think that Friedman Realty has done a beautiful job of maintaining their communities, and we have nothing against a yoga or Pilates studio, and we're happy that they could rent to, we're happy, we're not against business, but maybe rent to a business that has less traffic.
Dave, can you put this on the desks there, so we can have we can all see it? This would be Exhibit A3.
That's right. I was going to respond to some of this, Mr. Lord, using A3, when the neighbor was done speaking.
It's right here.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Okay, now, if you look at this is an exhibit that the applicant has introduced into evidence, and it's an overview of the Aberwick apartments. And if you look at the driveway that's on the left-hand side of the photograph, is that the driveway for your condominium?
Yes, that is.
And can you see the cars that are lined up there?
Oh, I see them. Mm-hmm.
Can they drive from that location into your driveway?
No, they cannot.
Okay. So maybe I misunderstood. The trouble that you have exiting on the Lancaster Avenue is caused by the corner that we can see down there?
Right, the corner, there are trees, there's a big tree right there. There's a big tree, and there's a pole there also, a utility pole. And then there's that fence going up, a fence going up.
Okay, that obscures your view of traffic on Lancaster Avenue?
Correct, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Wood, if I could offer, thank you very much, Ms. Johnson. The fence is actually not on our property. It's the neighboring condo's fence. So with respect to visibility concerns on the fence, that is not a result of a Friedman Realty Group or the use of the Aberwick apartments. And I should also note there is I don't know about the neighboring use, but there is a second ingress-egress point for Aberwick onto Chamonix. That is not the sole ingress-egress, and that ingress-egress was existing when the purchase was made. I'm assuming it goes all the way back to when the buildings were constructed, but certainly it was there as it exists today.
Can you
When
point on the photograph where that is?
So this is the existing access point for the Aberwick Apartments. This is kind of the fence line Ms. Johnson was referencing. Comes down this way. That looks to me maybe to be a sidewalk. Yeah, it looks like a sidewalk. Again, not on our property.
And the fence isn't on your property?
The fence is not on our property. It's not our fence.
And then there's another entrance that's closer to the train station.
The
It's
back,
kind of across from the train station driveway.
I'm identifying it here. Chamonix.
Yeah.
That's the second entrance point for the Aberwick. And you would have to ask, I guess, Ms. Johnson, as whether or not there's a second entrance point for there is no, she offers that there is no second entrance point.
Okay. Okay. All right, thank you. Any further questions for?
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other public comment? Please come forward.
I turned that off. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I think that's on now. Cherie Galbangeri, and it's CHERIEGALBRUN-GERRY. So as Ms. Johnson, okay, as Ms. Johnson has stated that the concern is safety. And also the number of parking spaces allotted for the Pilates group and the overflow if they can't find a spot close by, what's going to be nature, your common nature, to try and find a spot? Is it going to be to come over and take the few spots that we have that are the general parking spots outside of our unit? The potential owner of the studio states that there will be 5 reformers for 5 students, but not all Pilates classes only use those pieces of equipment. You can have other people doing exercises and not using the machine. So will there be more than 5 people in one class? Is a question that I have. I don't know. Okay. So that would be a question. Is it really going to be limited to 5 people? And as far as, I believe it was the owner of the property had said that when he drove by today, he noticed that there was ample parking. You may or may not have noticed that most people are away in July and August. They're at the Jersey Shore, so a lot of places do have empty spaces. What is this going to look like when it is vacation time over? What will happen in the winter when there's snow and parking spaces may not be readily available? So those just are some questions and concerns that I have, in addition to, again, the safety of people coming and going, more so than what is already in existence. Those are my concerns and questions.
Any questions for the witness?
I do have a question. So, and you currently reside in the
Yes.
Aberwick apartments?
No, no, in Wayne 427.
Okay.
Sorry, what is it?
Wayne 427 in the condominiums next door.
And as was stated previously then, are you seeing any overflow traffic being parked at the Wayne 427? Or is it the parking at your condominium, is it strictly, you're seeing mainly just residents parking there?
Just residents, but there have been situations where there were people who were parking that were not residents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a frequent occurrence or is it?
I've only been there a year, so the only,
Okay, thank you.
I wouldn't know how frequent.
But were those residents, are those other people who should not have parked there,
Correct.
were they from 435 East Lancaster Avenue? Or
Which-
don't you know?
I don't know where they were from.
Any other questions for the witness? Okay, thank you. Dave, any rebuttal?
Sure, I just wanted to answer. It will be 5 users, 5 reformers to use the equipment that's in there. That's the testimony from the owner. That's the intent to use this space. There's no intent to have it be additional types of classes. That was the testimony from the owner, and I've confirmed that. In addition, I was going to note that we've gotten, and I confirmed with the owner, we've gotten no notice from the township or from the neighboring properties that users of the Aberwick are actually going next door and parking there. So we believe, based on the information that we give, our overflow goes to Wessex, where we see more than enough capacity and lots of vacancy. And also, just to clarify the testimony from Ms. Friedman, again, just this is what's on the record, I'm restating for purposes of the neighbors. He gave just anecdotal evidence of availability of parking today, just by happenstance, but also stated that during his ownership, which is nearly 5 years, he has frequently visited the property and notices availability during those business hours and excess parking. So that's historical knowledge from the owner who visits the properties regularly and offers that, and just anecdotally
Just
offered
clarify
today.
something. These performers, which are devices, each student will have their own performer while they're there doing their
One-to-one,
one-to-one. Okay, and then there's one teacher.
one
or
teacher.
instructor,
That's correct.
5 students using the 5 devices, or whatever you want to call them.
And one teacher,
Okay.
correct.
And I take it from one of your earlier comments that should the board consider certain limitations and conditions, that they would be acceptable? Of course, you have to hear them, but
That's
yeah.
right.
okay. Within the testimony as it's been given here. Okay.
That's
All right.
correct.
Any further? Okay, you, ma'am, you can take your seat. Thank you.
I have one additional question that just popped into my head. Do you have any idea what the demographics of the renters is in the Aberwick?
I'm sworn in, so I'm good to reply. Okay. I don't know exactly. We don't track the profile of every single resident who moves in, but we have a pretty wide demographic. We have some young graduate students. We have young working professionals. We have empty nesters who have downsized from large family homes. So cater to all different types of people who live there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I need to turn it off.
All right, so there aren't any more witnesses, and it looks like there's no more public comment. Can I have a motion? John?
It's going to be, we're going to break into 2, yes.
Yeah, I think well, yes, we have to. It's a motion on the first part of the application, which is seeking a variance from section 280-36.2 to permit a Pilates studio.
I would make the motion that we approve a variance of section 280-36.2 to permit a Pilates studio within the R6 zoning district
With conditions?
and include all the testimony and here tonight.
I'll second that motion, John.
Okay, let's have some board discussion then regarding the motion. For me, I can be in favor of the motion, but I do think there has to be some limitations, some conditions in terms of number of students, number of devices, number of instructors, and that private classes will be slotted in, but that the equipment and the facility cannot be used unless the instructors are there in formal classes. Formal classes, whether groups of 5 or one-on-one classes are taking place. So in other words, people just can't, good customers can't walk in and just utilize the place as they see fit because they are known to the owner and operator.
If it pleases everyone, I'd like to add that either signage or communications with the Aberwick residents regarding overflow explicitly going to the other apartment, just so that we address the community's concerns about potential overflow parking. So be it on the building, inside the buildings, a mass email, just some sort of means to communicate with the Aberwick residents.
So based on that discussion, I guess we need a motion to amend the motion?
Yes, and it doesn't have to be that formal. If the movement and the person that's seconding are okay with the conditions, if you could be more, I think you might want to include the hours of operation, the specific number of users. I've noted that you also want that any users that are in the space be part of either a class or a single instruction session.
Yes.
So,
Happy to amend the motion to include those conditions.
okay. So the hours of operation that were stated from the testimony that I heard were 8 to 6.
8 to 6.
5 users at a time with 1 instructor.
One clarification. Maybe this was in the testimony, Dave, and I missed it. I do remember the hours are 8 to 6, 7 days a week, 5 days a week.
I don't know. I would say it should be 7 days a week, though I'm not sure that that would be. Is it 7 days a week? 7 days a week.
Okay.
And also the addition of the signage.
Notice to the
of
residents
Wessex House.
of the Wessex House overflow parking, 8 to 6, business hours, no more than 5 students and reformers at a time, in addition to the instructor, potential owner. I think those were the stated items.
No random use.
Right,
No
Right.
random use, correct.
that's correct, yeah.
Do you have enough?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let me call the vote. I will vote in favor of it.
So I'm actually not in favor of this.
I'll vote in favor.
I'm in favor.
Okay, so it looks like the motion carries and that variance is granted regarding section 280-36.2. Now we have to move on to the second part of this, which is a variance from section 280-103 with respect to required off-street parking.
Sure. I'll make a motion.
Okay, go ahead.
So I'll make a motion, John, to approve a variance from section 280-103 with respect to the required off-street parking. Presently, the subject property has 78 parking spaces to serve 51 residential apartments and 1 office space. So in accordance with the evidence and testimony presented.
I'll second the motion.
Board discussion?
Well, parking is always an issue, and for example, if, given the number of multiple bedroom apartments, I could see that this property is non-conforming with our current ordinances. So, but you can only go with what's there now and what you see.
Well, it seems to me, too, that there was some testimony that because, I might use the term incorrectly, common ownership between Aberick and the apartments across the way, that there should be a reasonable condition that can be imposed that
Overflow parking.
overflow parking, especially for the classes, will be next door.
That is the intent, and that will be,
And we already
Formalized.
conditioned
yeah.
the prior one with signage
Yes,
to that effect.
okay.
Given that we wouldn't see any Aberwick residents being pushed over to the adjacent building.
No.
Meaning they would effectively have priority to that building and not be just because
That's
of.
correct.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So with that understanding incorporated into the motion, and it is so incorporated, is that right? Then I would vote in favor of the granting of that variance to 280-103.
I'm in favor.
I'm in favor.
I'm in favor.
Okay, so that the motion is approved for the second half of the appeal, which is, I just said, section 280-103 with respect to parking. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
By the way, some very nice renovations to those facilities.
That concludes our meeting for this evening. Everybody have a nice rest of the summer. Somebody make sure Dave gets a